Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us again here today on Hessens County. Today is going to be the first in a series of episodes taking a look at To Swear on Your Honor. We are going to, previously we already took a look at the game, sort of breaking down the different mechanics and how the game works. For those of you who have not watched that though, I will put put it up in the info box up above, and also quickly summarize To Swear on Your Honor. It's a single player journaling game where you play a knight of which could be one of any different sort of cultural permutations of a warrior that is sworn to a liege. It is your job to essentially attempt to defend the kingdom and your liege from whatever trials and tribulations occur within the kingdom until eventually you retire. Which is normally done once your character reaches a certain level of renown or prestige in one of a certain number of different sort of reputation types. Rather than continue on talking about it, let's go ahead and get started. So, the name of our series is going to be To Serve is to Live, because of course that's what our character is going to be doing. They're going to be serving a liege. And when you are kind of starting off, one of the first things you need to do is you need to kind of decide exactly what kind of world you're going to be living in, or your character is going to be living in and fighting in. And also you need to define the liege, a basic idea of what the liege is and your character's relationship with the liege. So that's the first thing we're going to need to get done today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to kind of try to define exactly what kind of feel our country has. I think to kind of make this simple and kind of to play into a lot of the art and some of the stylistic choices that were made in the creation of the game, I think we're going to go for definitely like a like late Renaissance, early modern sort of setting. Probably a kingdom similar to like maybe one of the Italian city-states or something along those lines. Not necessarily in culture, but at least in feel. Probably it's going to be like a small independent duchy, something along those lines. Maybe in something similar to like what you have in the Holy Roman Empire, or maybe like, maybe if the principalities or maybe if like the provinces of what is today the Netherlands weren't quite so united. I mean, they were united, but not united in the fact, more like an mini HRE, a mini Holy Roman Empire, as opposed to a like concrete country republic sort of a thing that it ended up being early on in this time period. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Basic idea is that this is going to be probably a small kingdom per se. I'm going to think that our liege is probably not actually like a king, but more like a maybe one amongst equals, like on a council or something, and we're sworn to that individual and not like to the council as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down real quick before I forget. Okay, so as I mentioned so far, we have kind of that our country is going to be like probably a small kingdom having a feel of an Italian or German city-state that's primarily based probably on trade and commerce, maybe some manufacturing. Our liege is going to be a prince or a high noble that is on a council of equals that essentially leads the kingdom. We're sworn to that individual, not to the whole. So that's going to make it really easy, I feel, to kind of integrate a lot of politics and intrigue into some of the conflicts and events that are going to be potentially occurring within the actual storyline of our game. I am not going to give our liege a name yet. However, we do need to decide exactly what kind of relationship we're going to be having with our liege, as I mentioned earlier. Again, as I mentioned, we need to define the sort of relationship with our liege, which you can find here under liege bonds. So we have the different sorts of options that we might have would be a relationship based on gratitude, admiration, fealty, piety, adoration, or ensorcelment. Excuse me. So gratitude would be basically they've done something to us and we feel the need to repay that, but of course it's probably beyond our kin to actually really repay. Admiration would be we feel that our liege is like a shining example. It says here a shining example of everything right in the world. So basically they are a role model that we look up to, right? Fealty would be basically we're bound by duty. We might not necessarily always agree with our liege, and we might not necessarily have the best relationship with our liege, but because of some other sense of our honor, and our honor is built on the idea that we're duty bound to this person. We have to support and act on behalf of this person just because that's our job. That's what we do, right? That is an element, is a key element of our being and our actions. Piety would be where basically the liege is some sort of manifestation of maybe religious or some sort of sacred power that requires us to give our allegiance to them, either because maybe they're a high priest of some sort, or like let's say cardinal. Let's say they're like a cardinal in the church, right? Or maybe it's some sort of god king, like you might have like a pharaoh from Egypt, where you're obeying this person not just because they're the human temporal power, right? But also because they're a religious they're a physical manifestation of a god or something along those lines. Adoration, basically, this could be like actual love, or this could be just that you see this individual as being the most perfect being that you have no choice but to serve, just because to do otherwise would be to basically disgrace their perfection of some sort. So this could be like a physical attraction. This could be something along the lines of admiration, but less for what they do and more for what they are and what they represent. I feel. Ensorcelment is there's some sort of bond, probably based on magic, maybe, or some sort of other. We're sworn to serve this person for some dark reason, or an enchantment or something, or something along those lines. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna roll a d6 and let this. Since there's 6 options, I'm gonna roll a d6 and let the dice decide. So here we go, and we rolled a 3. So 3 is fealty. So, yeah, as we mentioned, our bond is fealty. I should probably come up with some sort of sentence that kind of describes that. And actually, now that I think about it, the original tagline that I had here at the beginning, "To serve is to live," I think might actually be a good sentence to put here. How apropos. So I will go ahead and note that down real quick. We have a bond of fealty to our liege, and we go along with it because that's just all we know. That's what life is. My life is service. The person that I serve is my liege, and that is the way that I serve. And there we go. The second thing that we need to decide is a legend. So basically, for those of you who might not have watched the original video where we kind of dived into sort of the mechanics of how this game works, a legend helps us determine sort of like what makes us such an important and impactful hero or villain to this story. So let me pull up the manual and we'll hop through those real quick. So here we go. Yes, we basically, like I mentioned, the legend essentially is this whatever sort of otherworldly manifestation, whether it's power, magic, I don't know, something along where something has given us an ability that goes beyond mortal kin, or at least the normal soldier or knight or whoever, and is instead giving us more of a feel of giving. Basically creates this heroic or villainous character that we are going to be portraying. Again, legends are double-edged. Yes, our legend might describe obviously a positive element or a power that we might have, but of course it's not all things that might be perceived as positive are always positive. So here we have just some the 6 examples of legend that we have are prowess, fortune, beauty, guidance, destiny, and permanence. Prowess basically usually means that one way or another we are ridiculously able, usually in conflict or in battle or leading individuals or something along those lines. Fortune means that we just have incredible luck. We're really good at we get very good and positive interactions with people. Beauty, of course, that could be that maybe we're incredibly attractive. Maybe we're good at attracting attention. Maybe we're good at convincing people to go along with us for what we want. Guidance means that there's something out there that basically that shows us the way or gives us the truth or lets us pierce through deception and falseness and disguise and stuff like that. But again, sometimes we might see truths that we don't necessarily want to know. Destiny means that essentially like our life is on a path, and that destiny will help support us in time when times get really rough, or might help us survive in situations where we normally might not have, because we have a destiny to fulfill. Of course, once that destiny is fulfilled, and also like the means of protection for us in that destiny might result in damage to negative things for people around us, or might pull us in directions that we don't necessarily want to go as a character. Permanence, something is preserving us beyond the normal, whether that means, you know, being preserved from physical harm, not aging, or like we're so strict and steadfast in our way that nothing will sway us as much as we might want it to, or as much as it might make sense for it to. So permanence could be seen as preserving physical, but also preserving sort of honor and morals to an extreme. We're going to go ahead again and roll on this table. Again, this is another D6 table, so here we go. And I rolled a 6. Oh, so permanence. So the 2 examples of permanence that Cat McDonald gives us here on this chart, the first one says, you will not age until your quest is complete. And the second one says, no temptation shall sway your noble heart. I think I might go with the first one. The you will not age until your quest is complete. For a couple of reasons, and I'll explain them in just a second once I note it down. So, as I noted down, our character's legend is going to be permanence, in which case we're going to be looking at, like, basically we are going to be physically preserved until our task is done, right? And there's 2 reasons why I'm thinking this would be a good idea for our story. The first one is because, as you can see in the picture, I'm kind of envisioning a relatively young person, at least physically. But I'm thinking we might have actually already been at this for a while, and that we've started to notice that for some reason we're just being physically preserved and we don't know why. The second reason why I'm thinking it might be a good idea to kind of go for a character who is seemingly ageless is because I'm thinking that our liege is I'm modeling our liege at least a little bit off of Heinrich Friedrich, our crown prince, who was the crown prince of the electoral prince of the Palatine, and sort of like the son of Frederick V, who was, you know, the Winter King of Bohemia. So yeah, I'm thinking that this is going to be our liege, and our liege is going to start off being basically a kid, you know, maybe like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, something along those lines. But she's going to age pretty rapidly over the course of our story, and then that changing in dynamic, I feel, is probably going to play a role in our story. At least I want it. I'm hoping that it will. So in some ways, having our character be like physically preserved would be actually really apropos, I feel, for that particular potential story element. So the next thing we need to do is we need to sort of distribute our stats, essentially. So what we're going to do is we have 7 points that we can distribute across our four different stats, and these determine how many dice we roll whenever we're dealing with a situation. So we have strength, swiftness, gallantry, and cunning. Each one of them has to have at least 1 point. So basically we got 4 points spent right there. So the real question is going to be, where are our other 3 going to go? So I'm thinking instead maybe we might just bump swiftness, gallantry, and cunning up. At the very least, I know I want swiftness to be bumped up, maybe to 2. And then I think we can also go ahead and bump cunning up to 2. Yes. And then we'll do gallantry up to 2. And then when we get enough experience points, I think what we'll do is we'll increase probably either gallantry or cunning in order to improve that stat for in the future. So that's pretty much everything we need to do for creating our character, other than creating a name for them. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and start transferring this onto our character sheet. And speaking of character sheets, here it is. So this is the character sheet. This is the sort of form-fillable PDF that Cat McDonald created for a character sheet, which tracks our stats, our legend level, our legend, our knight's name, experience, destiny points, all of those things. Some of those elements you can definitely check out the video that I mentioned previously, where we did a bit of a deep dive into sort of the mechanics and how this game works. So I'm not going to touch into that now, but where we are is we're going to start filling in the different elements that we previously decided on onto this sheet. So we automatically start off with 3 destiny points. We do not start off with any experience. And again, here on the character sheet, you'll notice that there are these rows of 10 blocks that can be checked like this. These track the sort of reputation points that we earn as a result of accomplishing certain tasks and things like that. So these will slowly fill in. The top one is considered the more heroic of the 2. So we have mighty, trustworthy, inspiring, and masterful, each of which are associated with these different traits. And then these more dishonorable or villainous or generally perceived to be negative versions of those are on the bottom. Like, so for strength, we have dangerous. For swiftness, we have clownish. For gallantry, we have tragic. And for cunning, we have foolhardy. And then down here, we have dishonorable, which means basically we gain dishonor points by refusing to act whenever a situation comes up. So, as I mentioned, that's pretty much everything except for a name for a liege, our knight, and an emblem. So, actually, why don't I leave this at least a little bit up to you? If you have any suggestions on what you feel would be a good name for or knight or a liege, or maybe some sort of emblem or symbol or something that our knight kind of carries around with them, or wears, or has on a banner, or some sort of seal or something that indicates who they are, definitely put it in the description down below, and I will definitely take a look and take your suggestions into consideration. Be sure to, of course, like, ring the bell, subscribe, all that stuff if you want to see future episodes in this series, and don't forget to rate your itch purchases, and have a good zone. If you would like to show your support for this channel, or for the Hessens County blog, in the description down below, you will find links to the channel coffee and also the itch store. Please feel free to take a look, and thank you for your support.